Palace 1, United 2. This was a very good result for United, and in the end, a very good performance in that second half. I mean, within limits. I think we should talk about what some of those limits are, but maybe we go right back to the beginning. What did you make of the lineup and the overall approach from Ruben Amorim?
I mean, both teams missed early chances. It started off like a bit of a basketball game. It was end-to-end. Mateta missed a chance. I mean, before that, Casemiro and Mbeumo missed chances, and that was the majority of United's XG in the first half. They created nothing in open play. Yep. It was really dreadful. It was a complete continuation of that lack of intensity from Everton. I was really frustrated, really frustrated. I mean, it was what I dreaded. We had 60% possession. We weren't able to do anything with it. The second half was so different because once United scored, Palace were on the ball more. I mean, United only had 51% possession in the second half. Palace had no shots on target. The biggest takeaway for me was how tight United were defensively more than anything else. I mean, the end is always going to be a little bit nervy. The team hasn't shed all of that mental fragility that you and I have spoken about previously. I found it funny people were talking about the ball wasn't bouncing United's way and whatnot in the first half. For me, it wasn't even that. They just weren't playing well. Like the duels were quite even. I think it was 27-23. It was 34-30 in the second half. So it was much the same in that aspect. But the difference for me is how they stifled Palace defensively. And Palace were 12 games undefeated at Selhurst. United 1 win in 11 road games. So to get a win in the most unlikeliest of circumstances was a nice surprise. But it's a bit of balance, like you said, right? Like, so it wasn't perfect. I thought that even though Bruno's assists were really quite funny in a way, he didn't do a lot of the work. A lot of the work was done by Joshua Zirkzee and Mason Mount, but it balanced out his creative efforts. He did create 4 chances. The best ones in the first half were via him.
Yeah.
But the concern for me within that is probably, I'd like to talk about the players a bit, but what did you make of the game?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we go right from the beginning. The lineup, I was glad to see Ahmad at right wing back. I mean, obviously he does his best work in the final third, but it just adds another attacker into the side. That was balanced out by Josh Zirkzee starting up front again, and we can talk about the change in the second half, which put him in much better positions, right? And I don't know who you would be to watch the Everton game and go, oh yeah, Josh Zirkzee's definitely a number 9. And he's the kind of number 9 that will work in an Amorim system. I just don't know what kind of aneurysm or stroke you must have had to think that would work, right? I mean, we've got lots and lots of evidence. There's a reason Josh Zirkzee hadn't scored for a year in the Premier League, near enough a year, 24 games it was. He's not really a striker. He's a shadow striker. And he did some great work in the second half. You know, props to him and Ruben Amorim for changing it around in the sort of areas where he was doing his work. But having him as a number 9 and banging long balls at him, what do you think is going to happen? It's just an absolute madness. And that's the most frustrating thing about Ruben Amorim, is that you contrast United's second half performance, where there was lots of interesting kind of rotational stuff, especially Zirkzee dropping into the left channel and Mason Mount rotating with Brian Mbeumo going up front, which I know we've talked about before. He sees that, and he's talked in the pre-match press conference about needing an Ahmad on the other side. So he knows he needs more attacking support, otherwise United aren't going to score goals, right? He knows all of this, and yet he turned out basically the same set of players, you know, with minor changes and the same approach and strategy. And he was surprised it wasn't working. Like, madness, absolute madness. And that's the most frustrating thing, because I think he's a smart coach. He's obviously well regarded through football. He's, you know, obsessive kind of positional person, as most top coaches are these days, right? Obsessive about the conceding chances on the counter and where players should be in really specific, you know, down to like the meter where they should be. They've been playing full matches in training this season to get it right. He's had loads of training time, so that's not an excuse anymore. And then he churns out the same stuff, and I'm like, what the fuck have you been smoking? But that was the bad stuff. And you're right, United created almost nothing in the first half. They only created 0.2 XG from open play in the second half as well, by the way. So they still have a problem creating.
Yeah, I noticed that after the second goal. I was like, yep, still not much happening.
But they got in better positions in that second half. And I think that's the thing that mattered. And if you think about like where both goals came from, they are both set pieces, but they come from Xerxes dropping into the left channel, allowing Dalot to cut inside, gets the free kick, and so on. And so they might have been set piece goals, but they were from the changes that he had made in order to get United into better positions.
Yeah, it was really frustrating watching the first half, knowing that those changes needed to be made. And probably one of my frustrations with Ruben Amorim is how long sometimes he waits. I think the biggest criticism I had of the Everton game was that once the red card happened, why aren't you making changes straight away to take advantage of that? You spoke about this, you've got three centre backs, against 10 men, you're instantly losing that advantage. So why aren't you making changes to make the most of that advantage? It felt like they never did. But the second half changes, you have to give credit. I'm still not entirely convinced. I see the balance in it took moments of brilliance to take the lead. But United have proved to be a really good set piece team this season. It's a really magnificent turnaround. A lot of credit to Carlos Fernandes for the work he's done, or Ruben Amorim, whatever it is. United was so bad at corners last season, both in attack and defence. And now you actually genuinely feel when it comes to set pieces that anything can happen. It's a very long time since it felt like that. I thought Casemiro's turnaround in the second half after he really struggled in the end-to-end sort of vibe of the first half. Adam Morton is not the most mobile player, but he was running rings around Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes in the first half. It was just the pivot was just not working. All the flaws were being exposed. Bruno Fernandes was so deep. The concern I had with him overall through the 90 minutes were laid bare. No touches in Palace's box, only one shot on goal. That's just still not what you want from a player like that. You're sort of magnifying his weaknesses in marking and asking him to be so sometimes he was as deep as the centre-backs were. He doesn't need to do that. That's also a flaw of Bruno. Like, he doesn't need to drop into where De Ligt is. De Ligt can make that pass himself, and he's shown that. Joshua Xerxes' goal changed it all for him. I thought he just seemed to get a little bit more confidence. And also, I spoke about this during the game. He's only played 20-odd minutes since the end of August. Yeah. So it is going to take a little bit of while to shed off that rust, but it is amazing what a goal can do. And it was a stunning goal. I thought Mason Mount was just awesome. He is so important, especially when you don't have Matthias Cunha. And I think, we talk about the lack of production from Cunha so far, but what he does for his teammates is something that Mason Mount also does. You've got to have one of them in that front three for it to work, in my opinion. And it wasn't a great day for Brian Mbeumo. And for United still to win when they've relied on him heavily was pretty important. I am highly critical of Diogo Dalot at this point, but he was good. Is good the right word on the left? I thought he did a good job. He did his job, and I guess that's why he gets picked. I really thought that Nasser Mazraoui made a huge difference when coming on. I thought he was awesome. Really felt for Lenny Yoro, who is going through a rough patch at the moment. That's just going to happen. He just needs some time. We'll talk about this with West Ham. I think probably resting him at the moment and just giving him a break might be a good idea. But I also thought, Sonny Lemons didn't have a lot to do after the penalties. He really didn't.
Very little. Yeah.
Yeah. Dean Henderson, if you compare the two, I thought Sonny Lemons was the better of the two keepers. It's marginal because neither faced a lot of pressure, but I actually thought Dean Henderson's distribution was quite bad. And Lemons just did his job when the ball was at his feet. His distribution, his long passing was fine. It's so weird because it's one result and then it does help make up for the Everton result, but it's all part. I'm still seeing the bigger picture. I've still got questions. So I'm trying to enjoy the result. It's one of the few wins I can remember where I still had real reservations. How did you sort of feel, or how are you feeling about it all?
I mean, much as I've done for a long time with United, I'm not going to get too high and not going to get too low about this because this is far from a perfect side. And we've got a coach who's kind of proven himself to be far from perfect too. If that's not too mean, I mean, just the mere fact that he put out that side to start with Xerxes at number 9, and they were hoofing it long. And it was so different in the second half. It was clearly instructional. So that's the good and the bad, yin and the yang of Ruben Amorim. He's so obsessive about his system, and the contrast with Glasner in the Palace manager is apt here, right? Because Glasner's like, he's not a 3-4-3 kind of hyper obsessive. He's playing that because he thinks it suits the players he's got in the squad, whereas Amorim is, and it doesn't suit the players he's got in the squad. And he talked in the pre-match press conference about needing the profile of player for each position, right? And that is his flaw. He is unable to construct a side that does not have the perfect player for each position. We know this now. He can't do it, right? So if United are going to stick with him, we have to accept the fact that we're going to be crap until we can buy players for all the right positions. And in that sense, we can look back in hindsight at the summer and say we didn't do enough business, right? Because it was obvious that the wing-back positions were undermanned with the right kind of profile of player, and the same with central midfield. Should have done more business, should have thrown the boat out. We know we've got quite a lot of PSR headroom, or score cost rule headroom from next season, plenty of it. Millions, tens of millions. And so we could have thrown the boat out, we'd have been borrowing money to do it, but in retrospect, that would have been a better strategic decision to do it. Same applies in January. Fill in the holes if you want to chase Europe, might as well. But that's kind of, it's a long, winding way of saying, I'm not going to get too high about one win, because there are a lot of flaws with this side. Partly it's players and personnel. Some of it's mental fragility. Some of it is Ruben Amorim and the way he approaches these games and his tendency towards conservative choices. And some of it's like flogging a dead horse over and over again with stuff he knows doesn't work, or he must know doesn't work. And if he doesn't know it doesn't work, then he shouldn't be at the club. But I know he does, and he's hoping it'll change. And I kind of felt a sense of frustration about that for quite a long time now. But some of the things that help make it work, Mason Mount, for all his flaws, and he has many, physical and production, like not enough goals and assists really for a player of his caliber, does help make this system work. For sure. Things that don't help make the system work, 2 fullbacks at wing back. Just never works. Never. Apart from Liverpool, which was a very special kind of tactical system where we played 40% of our balls long, it's just never worked.
It's a death knell for the attack. It completely... I just said this repeatedly. It castrates the attack having 2 fullbacks. You need more. It's like how he says... Like you just said before, talked about needing Ahmad on that right side, and that's because that you're asking way too much of the front 3 if you have 2 fullbacks in that system. It doesn't work. And I thought about, and you've said this, and I was listening to Scott say this on the Promised Land, but they've got to, you wonder how they prioritize January and what positions they do, and then what business they should have done in the summer and how they should have prioritized differently. If you went that way around again, would you have not signed Cunha and then allocated that to a midfielder? Would you have potentially signed a less expensive forward? How would you have prioritized that differently? Or would you have just signed the same players and pushed the boat out a bit more and got another left back? I don't know. It's a really weird thing for me. It's just like, does it change when Harry Amas comes back? You have another option. Does it just the fact that the squad balance is completely fucked at the minute because they had 5 defenders on the bench, 2 left-sided centre-backs and 2 left-backs, which was driving me nuts before kickoff because I could not understand why Terrell Malacia or someone else, but he seemed the obvious candidate, was picked is instead of, Jack Fletcher. It didn't make sense not to have another option.
I think that's very true. Well, we haven't really discussed the various goals yet in the Palace game. Sort of mentioned Josh Xerxes' goal. Amazing finish, really. I mean, the ball from Bruno's excellent. I was not expecting that. I think in that kind of position, you expect him to play it back across goal and look for the runners. It's a great strike. It's very close to Henderson. I mean, I think he's got to feel like, because if you think about how much of the goal must have been possible to hit from that kind of angle, it must be 6 inches, right? And it's just below his elbow. Maybe Xerxes hit it quick enough that he was wrong-footed. Henderson in his stupid cap. By the way, goalkeepers shouldn't wear caps. I'm not having it. Whole different story.
It was a massive factor, though, wasn't it? Like it really affected United in the first half. It was incredibly difficult to watch on the broadcast. Not to mention the camera angle is always crap at Selhurst.
Yeah,
but you could see it affected Palace in the second half too. Like it undoubtedly had an effect on the game. But yes, no, goalkeepers should never wear caps. I don't like them wearing short sleeves either. Just for the record, I just don't think it's like I always think goalkeepers should be in long sleeves, but just personal preference. But I thought that Henderson had anticipated a cutback. I thought he thought Xerxes was going to wheel around and play it across the 6-yard box. Never happened. And I also don't think you anticipate that Joshua Xerxes is a ball striker like that. Like he absolutely walloped it. Yeah. And it was brilliant. I mean, what did you think of the double tap penalty? I forgot that rule was even a thing.
I'd forgotten that rule had changed because we saw it last season, right?
Yeah.
And
was it
normally
it was Alvarez.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Normally you only get a rule change when United have benefited from the previous rule and there's a big media campaign to get it changed. So it's, I guess, a nice surprise that wasn't something weird caused. I actually find it a bit weird, right? Because if you do a foul throw, you don't get a second go at it. So really there should be a consistency. Why do you get a second go at it? It's a clear violation, right? I don't know. It's if you anyway, I don't really think you should get a second go at it, but it is the rule and it was well spotted by the VAR and absolutely the correct decision to make him retake it. Very good retake, I guess. Completely fooled Senna Lamons. Let's hope he's not a Dave/Anana and can't save penalties.
Well, he was a good penalty saver. So
he did have a good record, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not too worried about it. I just think there was a bit of mind games with it. I think it's always tough for the keeper on the retake rather than the taker, especially if they've scored the first one.
Mm-hmm.
It just felt like there was a bit of mind games. I did like how, looking back on, I did like how Mateta did the same celebration again. That was very social media-ish. But Fortunately, it didn't work out for him and didn't get to post a double celebration afterwards. He might have. I didn't look.
Mateta's an interesting player because there's so much to like about him. He's sort of direct running. He's very physical.
Old school.
Plenty of pace, very old school. I think it's his finishing that's kind of letting him down. If he was just a 10% better finisher, he'd be at a top club already.
Yeah, he's not a volume scorer. And I think,
he's not.
Yeah, it's the same when you remember when Xerxes arrived, everyone just sort of looked at his goal total. I think it's that sort of same thing. A lot of fans didn't like the idea of Mateta in the summer. I actually really like him because I think he makes everyone else around him better. You just don't want him to be the sort of the focal point reliance for goals in your attack.
I would not want to drop 60 or 70 million on him for the output that you'd get.
Yeah, too overvalued in Premier League pricing.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, well done on the penalty, etc. and so on. And he caused United plenty of problems for the actual penalty. Obviously, Yoro's made the mistake there. He knows he's made the mistake. There's lots of clips going around on social media of Mason Mount giving him a hug afterwards and all of that kind of stuff. And Amorim pulled him off, which was pretty harsh after he'd had some, by the way, extremely harsh words. Let's get into the Patrick Dorgu of it all in a bit because I was a little unsettled by what he said there. But we'll see with Yoro whether he needs to come out or not. He's not had a great season so far. I'd say it's fair to say he's been in and out of the team. He actually started the season all right, I thought, and then got dropped inexplicably and then never really recovered from it. But he's, 19 or 20? I forget now.
Just turned 20.
He's got years and years ahead of him. Rio Ferdinand was stinking out West Ham United at this age. So,
hell of a block, though, right before the penalty.
That was a
hell of a block. Yeah. That was probably a goal saver, considering where Lamons was prior. I thought they were going to score.
I think he lost his footing as well before he made the foul.
Yeah, it was clumsy.
Everyone
he was trying to pull out.
Yeah.
When you watched it live, you were like, "What the fuck was that?" But then when you saw it back, you sort of understood he's done something clumsy. He's tried to pull out of it, couldn't. So it's just something that happens. Fortunately, we won. I don't mind the idea of giving him a break. Just it depends on where he's at. Like whether that, like when he came off in the clip or the screen cap that I posted, other people posted, whether that was frustration, disappointment in himself, or something else. I guess it depends on where he's at after that. I just think I would like to see Mazraoui come in. I think he's probably earned a start. It is a bit tricky though because the player's confidence is so delicate, and Yoro and Sesko were in similar scenarios where they were in and out of the team or in and out of the starting lineup, and I think that can be tricky when you're trying to build confidence.
Yeah, and when we don't have many games. So if you're out of the team 1 week, you don't have a game for 2 weeks, maybe 3, 4, and so on. And Josh Sirks will tell you it's very hard to perform when you're not fit or sharp or playing much football. All right.
Yeah, well,
and then
no one's played because the starting lineup has remained much the same. Look at Luke Shaw; he's played every game. It raises a dilemma with Lissandro Martinez because I don't think you can fit both into the same team.
I don't think you can because I actually think you do want your central centre back to do most of the box defending.
Yeah.
So I think it's one or other. And by the way, Luke Shaw was very good yesterday, and I think generally speaking, his level is high. Yeah. We didn't talk about Mason Mount's goal yet. Bruno gets the assist for that one. Be the easiest assist he ever gets. Fair enough. Maybe someone should come up with I've said this before, a weighting system for assists. How difficult was the assist?
Expected difficulty or something like that.
Yeah, because it's not expected assists that actually count, because that's more about the where the shot is taken from, and that tracks back to your expected assist. It's the kind of expected difficulty of it all, but rolling it 3 yards for Mason Mount to ping one in.
What was your perspective on the goal after it was scored? Did you think it was genius or a mistake by Palace? Or
I mean, I think Palace would be very upset that they didn't have their wall set right. So, I mean, the referee whistled. And
I thought it was smart on that part, knowing that they weren't ready to go.
It just went quickly, Yeah, and Mason Mount was almost caught off guard as well, right? It took him a step to get to it. Luckily, Palace were not set at all. Ref whistled, it's their problem.
Maybe the expected assist is the genius of knowing to roll the ball out quickly rather than the difficulty of the rollout.
Yeah. All right. So where does that leave us? And we're up to 7th and really only 3 points off the Champions League places. Again, it's wide open this year. I mean, we're such a flawed side, but so is everyone else from 3rd to 10th.
Yep. The top 3 have just left us behind, to be honest. I don't know how you can watch like Arsenal Bayern Munich or Arsenal Chelsea and not see anything but a giant gap between them and the rest. It's they're going to streak to double digits ahead of everyone else in due course. I would think there's too much like in unpredictability. So I think living in the trick for United, and it's probably a good thing we've got 4 days and then 4 days again, is that living in that game to game, especially with the manager situation and the balancing act of that, it's really frustrating going up and down and up and down, the highs and lows, especially on social media. Like you said, like it's the extremes. We live those extremes online. And so it's difficult because, they were in the bottom half. Now they're in the top half, just off the Champions League places. It's all perception things. So for me, I look at it now and go, if you can, well, I mean, I know we're going to talk about West Ham in a bit, but can you string 2 wins together and then all of a sudden, what does that look like? Are you in the top? Are you 4th? Like, not to mention Aston Villa are going to Brighton when we play West Ham. Sunderland are going to Liverpool. So those teams around us are playing each other. It's a real opportunity. And they missed that opportunity against Everton. Can they show that they can turn this into some more positive momentum? So it could have been 4 games without a win. Now we've got a win. We can turn that to 3 in a row with 2 good performances. It just, we're living a 90-minute life cycle at the moment.
Yeah, and we have to hope at the same time that if Arsenal, City, Chelsea are the best sides in the country right now, that not 2 of Aston Villa, Newcastle, Liverpool, Spurs, Brighton, whoever, name your teams, don't get it together, right? Because England will probably have 5 Champions League clubs. That means 6th is Europa League for sure. Obviously, the FA Cup would get a Europa League spot. 7th is a Conference League. You absolutely do not want to beat this. Almost certainly a loss. I was going to say loss leader, but it doesn't lead anywhere, right? It's just, you just make a loss on it. There's no benefit. You'd have to have a bigger squad. You don't make enough money. You won't sell out the Conference League games on the Thursday night, and there's no path to the Champions League. It's utterly pointless for a club like Manchester United. I actually think it's a really good tournament.
Yeah, for a club like United, it doesn't make sense in your revenue model. It's just an obstacle, especially because you have to play on Thursdays. The turnaround, I think Palace are now, I think they're 1 win from 6 after their European games this season. So
not surprised they're not set up for it.
United struggled off the back of Europa League games. That wasn't just squad quality. The turnaround is really hard, especially when United already had physical limitations. And we talked about this a lot last season.